Brazilian President Sarney visits Fermilab. Loma Linda moves out. A look at the upcoming Fixed Target program. These and other stories are the subjects of this edition of Video News. On September 27th, President José Sarney of Brazil was welcomed to Fermilab by Deputy Secretary of Energy W. Henson Moore and Dr. John Peoples, Director of Fermilab. President Sarney had been in New York to address the General Session of the United Nations, and his presence marks the first time a head of state has visited this laboratory. President Sarney was introduced to Fermilab in a short morning press conference following his arrival. Deputy Secretary Moore spoke of the continuing scientific cooperation between Brazil and the United States.
We cannot even begin to imagine what important breakthroughs and benefits lie ahead for us in this field of high energy physics. But we do know that the lasting friendships that are being formed, the deep professional respect being developed between our people, and the productive work being accomplished through this joint venture are enhancing science and education both in Brazil and the United States.
An overview of the laboratory was provided by Director John Peoples. Director Emeritus Leon Letterman, who initiated the Pan-American collaboration between South American and Fermilab physicists, spoke to President Sarney about the Latin American contributions here at Fermilab.
To conclude, let me assure you, Mr. President, that the 50 or so guests we have at this laboratory from all over Latin America are not here because we are a charitable institution. We have profited enormously from the collaboration in that our laboratory has been graced by the presence of bright young scientists. They bring their hands, they bring their minds and their enthusiasms, and that's a rich treasure.
Through an interpreter, President Sarney expressed his deep concern over foreign countries' participation in scientific programs.
And in order to convey this message to my people, I certainly had to come to Fermilab, because this is where undoubtedly the most important type of research is being carried out. It is the research, it could also be described as the search for God, because at least it is the search for the beginning of everything.
After lunch, scores of both Brazilian and local press covered President Sarney as he toured various experimental sites. The tour included visits to the Collider Detector Facility at Fermilab, as well as a stop at the Tagged Photon Laboratory, where a large number of Brazilian scientists are currently working. The visit to Fermilab was concluded by a brief meeting between President Sarney and Brazilian scientists working at Fermilab. The first ever proton synchrotron, specifically designed and built as a medical therapy machine, is being packed up here at Fermilab and sent to its home at the Loma Linda Medical Center in Loma Linda, California. This machine is the first hospital-based medical synchrotron with variable energy. This compact room-size synchrotron, the world's smallest, is 20 feet in diameter. The machine was switched off for the final time at Fermilab on September 14th at 7:45 a.m. From the early hours of 1989, the accelerator had been in a commissioning phase.
Not only this is a whole brand new machine, it's not only a baby, it's an embryo. It's like bringing the embryo along, and making it function and turning it into a child, and it's been a long, hard...
SAIC, Science Application International Corporation, which won the contract to be Loma Linda's industrial partner in this project, is in charge of the disassembly, shipping, and recommissioning of the machine.
Well, the accelerator right now is in about as good a state as we can get it, given the components that we have available. There are power supplies that aren't available here that simply were not manufactured in time to have installed here. So those will not be installed here, and those were in fact built for this machine and should give us improved performance. So
the disassembly of the machine will take about a month. The machine will be crated up, shipped, and reinstalled in the coming months. It should be running again at Loma Linda by April. The operation of disassembling and packing a proton accelerator has never been done before.
The most critical thing is that everything gets out there in one piece. I mean, nobody's ever shipped a machine like this before. And so the first time you do anything, you use a lot of unknowns. And so really the reassembling of the machine out there, and in fact getting it to its operation as it is here, I think will be will certainly be unique, and could involve some challenges that we're not aware of yet.
Upon arrival, the accelerator components will be installed in a completely new building that has been specifically designed and built to accommodate this unique machine, as well as treat patients in 4 different treatment rooms. The whole facility is 3.5 stories underground and will have a 5-story children's hospital above ground.
The building has come a long way, real fast, very, very fast. They've done an excellent job. They are ahead of schedule. Finishing our areas, they really came along with very, very quickly. We have minor problems now out there like we have with any kind of construction, you know, getting dust down because we have so much electronics to bring in, trying to phase and schedule their people in and out of the building, and that's also what I'm doing too, is working as that coordinator to interface all of that work.
The major excavation for the massive concrete shielding and foundation was started in August of last year. It was completed in 8 months. The base of the excavation lies 45 feet below ground. One of the construction challenges early in the project was the pouring of the huge concrete slab. It was poured in one monolithic or continuous pour. Starting at 4 a.m., truck after truck arrived with concrete. Over 14,000 cubic yards of concrete was poured that took 17.5 hours. The footprint of the structure is visible from this overhead view, which allows you to see the entire plan of the proton therapy facility. Here, level 1 is almost complete. This is the finished slab at level 1. It encloses the facility, which is a total of 45 feet below this slab. The building is now ready for the tedious task of installing the proton accelerator.
This definitely rounds out with a brand new state-of-the-art treatment and facility. This will be really a showplace for the next few years.
Although Fermilab has completed its commitment to Loma Linda, the technical support section will continue to work on the project. Completion of the 135-degree and 45-degree gantry magnets will be carried out. As Fermilab's responsibilities diminish and SAIC's responsibilities increase, the reality of a proton therapy accelerator is one more phase closer to fighting cancer. SAIC is also working to bring cancer therapy accelerators to other medical centers. That's why the Loma Linda Proton Accelerator is often called the Beam of Hope.
We are applying this technology to control or to harness one of the world's most powerful and controllable forms of energy, the proton beam. And we're using this proton beam to direct it at one of the most devastating diseases that man has to cope with, and that is cancer. Putting these together, we feel it's a very, very worthwhile thing to do. Now,
the Swedish Nobel Prize Committee announced on October 12th that Norman Ramsey will receive the 1989 Nobel Prize in Physics for the invention of the atomic clock. The central focus of his scientific career has been in the resonance of particle spin. Ramsey has applied spin resonance techniques to a wide variety of problems, ranging from atomic physics and his Nobel Prize-winning atomic clock to the search for the electric dipole movement of the neutron. Ramsey's invention of the atomic clock and his role with Fermilab illuminate his twin careers, one in his physics, the other in service to his nation. Ramsey was the first president of Universities Research Association, the university consortium that operates Fermilab and the SSC for the Department of Energy. Ramsey served as URA president from 1966 to 1981. In 1963, Ramsey served as chairman of what has since become HEPAP, the DOE High Energy Physics Advisory Panel. It is this group that helped set the course for American high-energy physics. At that time, the particle physics community was at a critical juncture, somewhat similar to the last years with the SSC. The AGS at Brookhaven had been completed several years earlier. It was known larger facilities were needed for the future. Ramsey's panel delivered their recommendation in the now famous Ramsey Report. It recommended 2 new facilities, a 200 GeV accelerator and a 600 GeV project for the future. The first recommendation led to Fermilab in the main ring. Ultimately, the Tevatron fulfilled the second recommendation. As the first president of URA, Ramsey played a pivotal role in the establishment of Fermilab. Our auditorium was named in honor of Norman Ramsey in 1981 for his contribution to Fermilab. Having a little trouble getting in those doors on the east side of Wilson Hall? Lots of people are, so here are some simple operating instructions. The doors going into the building and the doors going out of the building operate in similar ways. Here's how it works. When going from the outside in, pressing the button to the right will operate the right door, while the left door opens manually. The same is true once you are inside the doorway. Now, when going from the inside out, the right door opens manually and the left door opens automatically using infrared sensors, or by pressing the button on the left. Here's the whole thing in a nutshell. If you stay to the right, going in Wilson Hall, it's button operated. Staying to the right and going out of Wilson Hall, it's strictly manual. Now you can show all your friends how it's done. Characters portrayed in this dramatization are purely fictional, and resemblances are strictly intentional. Within the next several months, the changeover from colliding beam physics to fixed target physics will be completed, and the process of beam studies and beam tuning will begin. It is expected that fixed target high-energy physics should begin early in January. The major goal of fixed target experiments is to probe the standard model with as many different probes in as many different ways as the Tevatron permits. The experimentalists will be looking for deviations and agreements to the standard model. This will be accomplished by utilizing 15 beam lines with 24 experiments and other test beam activities. The run will last throughout 1990. Currently, the plan is to split the run with a 6-month first run period, followed by a 3-month shutdown, followed by another long running period. This is intended to save money during high power costs during the summer and allow for maintenance, upgrades, and switchover of experiments. Fermilab's Tevatron creates the highest energy particle collisions in the world. However, these proton-antiproton collisions are single probes. A complementary program to this type of research is through the fixed target program. It has the capability of producing a multiple probe approach to many particle physics questions not addressed by colliding beam experiments. Peter Garbinches, head of research division, explains.
The fixed target program, on the other hand, is sort of the old way of doing physics, the traditional way of doing physics, where we take a beam, extracted beam, sometimes produce a beam of secondary particles, and slam those into a stationary target. This has the following benefits. You can produce very many different beams of secondary particles, and you can use different targets. So it's not proton, antiproton. It could be protons, antiprotons, polarized protons, photons, pions, kaons, muons, electrons, and the whole gamut there. We can run about 8 or 9 different kinds of beams. And by doing this, you can probe the nucleus using different probes which might be more attuned to studying certain aspects. So you can ask more specific questions, more detailed questions using these probes.
A brief overview of the 15 different beamlines being run and the 24 experiments and test beams utilizing the beamlines will reveal 4 categories or clusters of activities. The first will be the Tevatron 2 experiments being fed by 4 relatively new beamlines. These experiments had their first data runs in 87 and 88. They will reach full fruitions in this coming run. The second category of experiments are 3 to 4 completely new experiments. These experiments are starting from scratch, new detectors in an empty experimental hall. The third category of experimental activity are the updated or continued experiments. These experiments have some new detection equipment but maintain the bulk of original fixed target detection hardware. The fourth category is the test beam program. This program supports the 2 collider experiments, CDF and D0, as well as a HERA experiment. It also supports SSC research and development projects. With its full menu of experiments and activities about to begin, the personnel and users of the fixed target program are facing a major challenge.
There are questions of how do we attain this analysis? How can we get this analysis done? In spite of the people working very hard on the last run, the 1987-88 run, we still have not done a very good job of completing the analysis of all of those 35,000 raw data tapes we had. I mean, we probably have only analyzed a third of those, I would believe, at this point. We have upgraded all of our data acquisition capabilities on the experiment. We're going to generate a lot more data. The question is, how do we spin the tapes and get the answers out? I think this will be a burden or a challenge. Let's put a challenge, a better word. I think this will be a challenge for the new computing division to provide the resources, both hardware, software, and manpower, to complete the timely analyses of the experiments taken during this next running period. But it would be very nice if the fixed target program would have adequate manpower and the self-discipline to be able to both take the data and analyze it as they're going along. I know that's a very difficult thing to ask, considering the large number of things we're trying to do with such little amount of manpower, but that would be a goal, to not only assure yourself that the data you're taking is good and it's going to lead to physics, but actually get some preliminary physics so you can prove that the detector's working, and you can have early publications, which are always good for your graduate students, the continued support of the experiments themselves through funding agencies, and the continued support of Fermilab.